In comparison to our planet, in comparison to our universe, as individuals, we appear small and insignificant, like a grain of sand in a vast desert. But we are more. We have the power to make a difference. United as one, we can change everything.
Everyone can do something.
It's not a time when we can just sit and watch the world go by.
We're all connected. Each of us, we have our role to play.
We are one planet, and it's our differences that make us stronger. When we combine our individual efforts towards the same goal, the result is greater than the sum of its parts.
It always seems impossible until it's done. And to do it, we all have to take that step forward together. And the more of us that try, the closer we come to succeeding.
Together, we will win the race against climate change, one step at a time. Extreme E's very own floating paddock, the St. Helena, is en route to Saudi Arabia, carrying the cars and event logistics for the first stop of its global Odyssey. After leaving Liverpool in the United Kingdom and passing through the Mediterranean, it had reached the engineering feat that is the man-made Suez Canal, connecting Europe to the Red Sea.
The key to the Suez Canal is that ships actually can access the Middle East, the Far East, without having to go around the bottom of Africa and around South Africa. There's no need to do that. So there's a big time saving and also, of course, a big fuel saving because it's a lot less miles. Everyone's come together as a team and that's the only way with a smaller crew that you'll get all the jobs that are needed to be done in the canal.
Everything has really been a first for St. Helena. There's always an element of pressure, there's always an element of a challenge. I've been on board now for 2.5 months. Don't think there hasn't been a day where I haven't had a challenge, but there also hasn't been a day that I haven't enjoyed.
On reaching the Saudi Arabian port of Jeddah after weeks at sea, it was time to unload the 9 electric race cars and 50 containers from the ship.
Okay, got it? Yeah.
I'm just absolutely shocked and amazed and ecstatic and happy all at once. You know, the journey that we've been going to bringing the St. Helena back to the UK, to refitting her, to getting her ready, and now to see our cars beautifully delivered into Jeddah for our first race. What an amazing achievement from everybody, both shoreside and everybody, my team on board, to see these wonderful cars and a great step forward for season 1 with Extreme E. Fantastic achievement.
At a junction between Europe, Africa and Asia, Saudi Arabia is a vast country occupying the majority of the Arabian Peninsula. The ancient city of Al-Ula sits in the northwest corner of the second largest desert in the world. First founded over 2,500 years ago, it became an important stop on the Incense Road, welcoming weary travellers to its natural oasis. But underground water sources such as these are becoming rarer in an environment that is getting hotter and drier every year.
Deserts are enormous. About 40% of the world is dryland region, and around 30-something% of the world's population lives in these regions. And it's not an easy life, so making that life harder is the difficulty that we face. Desertification is the process of degrading the land as it dries out, and in the future we see the deserts expanding. Observed land and sea surface temperature record shows us that warming is around 1 degree C over the period from 1860. And we've proven 25 years ago that that's due to increases in carbon dioxide. But in the future, towards the end of the 21st century, we see marked warming in the subtropics of the world, up to 6 degrees C across the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula, North Africa, and also in southern Africa. This region of the world warms far more than the tropics. Our fortunes are going to be bound up in what we've done to this climate system. It's both a question of mitigation and adaptation. We need to slow it down, and we need to be able to deal with what we've committed ourselves to.
Situated a few miles outside the city, the site for the first ever S01E01 X-Prix was coming together with great care, taking place to respect the stunning backdrop of the desert surroundings. For founder and CEO Alejandro Agag, this moment represents the end of 4 years of planning, and his feelings of finally being able to go racing was clear.
Feels great relief. I mean, we're finally here. It's been a lot of work, a lot of curveballs to us. COVID, Brexit, the Suez Canal, you name it, we made it. We're here, first S01E race. Many times I felt that this could stop or could fail, but luckily we had so much support. That's why we made it. We've been able to bring together incredible names of motorsport to a completely new concept, and all with the same mission, to make it become a platform to bring as many people as possible on the journey towards climate action through sport. And I think it will be beautiful tomorrow.
With site build well underway, the next job was to test the course that had been designed with the help of two-time DTM champion and rallycross driver Timo Scheider. This would be the first time the all-electric Odyssey 21 car would be tested on a competitive course.
We are trying to figure out the track layout with this real car, and on the other side as well for the technicians and for the car. I think there's some fine-tuning things we need to look at. It feels a bit like a world premiere somehow, being the first guy hitting out with the Odyssey 21. Now they're on the first track ever. It's a very nice feeling, so I'm really looking forward now to jumping soon.
The 8.8-kilometre circuit winds its way between these huge piles of sandstone, constantly undulating up and then down some seriously steep sections. With a mix of gravel, dirt and soft sand for its tyres to deal with, the first ever Desert X-Prix will provide a huge challenge for the cars and their drivers. After a few laps, the test and reserve drivers Timo alongside compatriot Jutta Kleinschmidt were happy with how much of a challenge the course would be.
To be honest, it's very tricky, and you have to find your way, especially when you don't know the track well. This can be a huge challenge, and then you have jumps and you have
many options, right? So
yeah,
the gates are quite wide, so you can go right and left. You have many options, so that's super nice, I guess. So this gives a lot of options for the drivers.
Yeah.
The track is set up in a perfect condition right now. From the pure feeling and emotions, I have to say this will be super, super nice.
S01E is a venture into the unknown for everyone involved, but none more so than 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton, who has set up his own team for the first time.
Very, very hard sometimes to believe in something if you can't see it. Wouldn't it be great to be a part of something that really does make a difference? Where I am in my life, I'm looking to see how I can have a positive impact on the planet. Particularly over the last 10 years, there's been a huge focus on education, people understanding what is happening in the world. It's becoming more and more of an issue. I've grown up in a normally aspirated engine world. Like, I love V12s, I love V10s. I'm never gonna love an electric car. Then I got an electric car, and they are so much fun. It's so impressive, the power delivery, there's no delay. And that's probably the biggest shock, is just how much torque you're able to get. Now I'm like converting all the cars that like Mercedes provide me. I want it to be fully electric. Sport has an opportunity to help raise awareness. There is a platform. And the reason I really, really love S01E, we're ticking off 2 boxes. You get to do the racing, the entertainment, fun stuff, but actually at the core of it, the real reason that we're there is to raise awareness for the issues that are in those places. I've grown up in motor racing my whole life since I was 8. It has been a male-dominated sport. It still is a strongly male-dominated sport, and I really think that needs to change. There are a lot of young girls out there that need to know that there is opportunity for them in motorsport. I'm really excited to see the difference that they bring and the message that we're able to project. My role is more like I would say the visionary. I know what I want. I know how I want my team to look. I'm trying to put together the best team. the first time I've ever had to choose drivers. From a driver's perspective, I'm always looking for someone that's pushing the limits. We got Cristina Gutierrez, having won multiple championships but leading the first stage of the Dakar Rally. Reliability and consistency is very, very key. We go into these places where understanding how to look after the car in those climates is going to be key, so I think that she's going to be a great asset for the team. Sebastian Loeb, 9-time world champion, he dominated the rally world. You know, they know what to do in their car. I can't tell them what to do in the car. But in the back, setting up the team, making sure that we've got the right people so that we deliver over and above. I could have only ever dreamed of owning a team. It's quite an exciting new prospect that I think is, you know, it's going to be exciting for people to see something different.
The track was set. The drivers and their Odyssey 21 cars were ready. It was finally time to see what this unforgiving track was made of as the teams headed out for shakedown.
I'm super excited for this track. I mean, the first drive, you've probably seen a lot of the drivers stopping on this big, almost cliff really, just down like a huge big side, almost a roller coaster. Made it, you know, pretty spectacular to look at, and it's going to be super exciting to drive, I think.
The course is absolutely insane. I was actually quite shocked with what they put in. You know, sometimes motorsport can go on the air of safety, but that drop is definitely pretty steep. The biggest challenge will be being able to be spontaneous and adapting to the changing environments. That's really going to test our skills in that sense.
The track is really extreme. The surface is really changing, so there are challenges all over the track, but that's what Extreme E is all about, really putting the drivers, the car and the tires to the limits.
The landscape is amazing. I already knew from Dakar. It feels good to be in a terrain more familiar to me. If you've never been in the sand before, it's a bit scary. For me, it's normal. I think this is not a problem. I'm excited to start, but also a bit, you know, nervous because here it's everything new, many things to think about. I have everything to learn.
Shakedown is the only chance for the teams to try and get to grips with the car and setup before they would push it to its limits a day later in qualifying. Unfortunately for Segi TV Chip Ganassi racing driver Carl Leduc, he pushed a little too hard and quickly learned that this desert track takes no prisoners.
Guys, big crash, big crash. I hit the big rock on the split line, guys.
It was a big mistake on my behalf, pushing too hard on a session that I didn't have to. It was a very bad first day for us, something we're definitely not proud of. There's no way but up right now, so we're excited. Eyes up, wide awake, throttle to the floor.
We're in Saudi Arabia for the first ever Extreme E Desert X-Prix. Before we get into the first competitive action, the drivers were welcomed on board the St. Helena, where Extreme E Scientific Committee member Carlos Duarte from the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology had put together a program of environmental education about the incredible yet threatened Red Sea ecosystems.
I'm really motivated by the mission and vision of Extreme E. The main project that Extreme E has adopted in the Red Sea is a project aiming at conserve a globally relevant population of sea turtles from climate change. So there's two main species of turtles in the Red Sea. One is the green turtle that feeds on seagrass and is the most abundant of the sea turtles in the Red Sea. And the second is critically endangered hawksbill turtle that is one of the most endangered animals on the ocean. So the turtles come out from the water to lay their eggs, and they do that for the first time 30 years after they're born, but they have a high fidelity to the same beach. So after 30 years of roaming the ocean, they will come back within 150 meters from the place they were born, and they will lay eggs there for the first time, and they will continue to do that every 3-5 years through their extended lifespan. So when the eggs hatch, then they do an extreme race. They have to endure. That's maybe a 20-second race, but it's a race that if they're able to win it, the reward is a 60 to 90 years of happy life in the ocean. We found in 2 consecutive years there was more than 90% mortality because very rapid sea level rise with climate change. Then the areas that used to be safe for them to lay their eggs are becoming prone to being flooded.
At every race location, Extreme E will be working together with local organisations to leave behind a positive legacy. And in Saudi Arabia, it has collaborated with the Bar Foundation to help preserve an important turtle nesting site that is threatened by sea level rises and plastic pollution. And some of the drivers were taken to have a look for themselves.
Let's go save the turtle!
We scientists have a very small voice. We don't reach audiences, we have very little influence. So Extreme E is translating that science into action, and it's only fitting that Extreme E main core operation is racing, because the window to solve the problem is narrow and is rapidly closing. So now we have a race for a future for the world, a future for our children and grandchildren, and we need to plan that race carefully because we have not 1 second to lose and we must win it.
From an ancient species that has been roaming the Earth for hundreds of millions of years to a cutting-edge racing machine that was finally ready to take on the desert for the first time in competitive action. Before it does, let's take a closer look at some of the technology behind it. Extreme E's revolutionary electric SUV, the Odyssey 21, is designed to take on perhaps the toughest challenge in motorsport. The all-electric machine will race across and through mud, sand, rock, water, and snow. From the heat and humidity of the desert and tropical rainforest to Arctic tundra and glacial base. The Odyssey 21 is an outstanding feat of racing technology. The car's battery, produced by Williams Advanced Engineering, stores 40 kilowatt hours of usable energy. To put that into perspective, the stored energy of this device could keep 2,600 phones charged for a week. The equivalent of a 550 horsepower combustion engine, it's capable of creating 1,000 Newton meters of torque.
It's very powerful, it's quite a reactive car, so you feel so fast over the dunes, on the gravel, it's impressive.
The Odyssey 21 is equipped with dual motors feeding the front and rear axles independently. The driver can move the torque balance between the motors directly from the cockpit. This allows them to maximize energy efficiency to the wheels depending on factors like speed, grip, and terrain. So that's a bit about what powers the car. But what about the racing format of the 5 X-Prix Championship Series? An Extreme E race consists of 2 laps. The male and female driver must complete 1 lap each in any order and can choose at the last moment who starts. Each team has 2 hyperdrive power boosts they can activate on lap 1 and lap 2 of the race. Day 1 is qualifying. Session 1 sees all 9 teams do 2 laps, 1 from each of their drivers. Session 2 sees all the teams head out to the course again. The times set from both sessions are then combined to make up the qualifying order and with it the first championship points of the weekend. The top 3 go straight to the semi-final. 4th, 5th and 6th go to the crazy race with the bottom 3 heading to the shootout to decide the last 3 finishing places of the weekend. Day 2 starts with the semi-final, with the top 2 finishers proceeding to the final, leaving 1 spot up for grabs to be claimed by the winner of the crazy race. The team that crosses the line first in the final wins the X-Prix, taking with it the glory plus 25 championship points. All 5 X-Prix count towards the overall team's title, but in the Drivers' Championship, competitors can drop their worst result of the season in their bid to be crowned the first Extreme E champion. Now you're up to speed on how the racing works. It's time to see what happened when the drivers took to the desert course and drove their Odyssey 21s in anger for the first time, as they headed out for qualifying. First to set a lap was Lewis Hamilton's team X44, who set a super fast time to set a high standard for the others to chase. Next to take to the dunes was Veloci Racing. Stefan Sarazan took the start, with W Series champion Jamie Chadwick waiting in the command centre to take over for the second leg of the run. Unfortunately for her and the Veloci team, Stefan hit a tree root as he sped away from the drop and had a massive crash, damaging the roll cage of their Odyssey 21 irreparably and ending their weekend. There was more drama to follow in qualifying. Andretti United's Timmy Hansen set a great opening lap, but just before he handed over the car to Katie Munnings, he picked up a slow puncture on the rear tyre.
The right rear's gone down on the car. You can see it flailing about. I wonder why the dust was so much. So Katie Munnings now going to have to manage that puncture. Look at this. Katie's still on a big push.
Oh,
Come on, Katie.
The tyre is off the rim.
It is off the rim. She's on the lock stops both ways round now. She's just got a few metres to go to make it to the finish line. Brings the car home. Brilliant drive.
We obviously had a slow puncture. Just at the end of the first sector, I went over a crest and the rear just snapped, and from then it was just, you know, on the rim the whole way back. In that moment, every second counts, so I tried to drive as fast as I could, but, you know, it's a long race, so we're not kind of giving up yet.
Acciona Sainz put together 2 strong issue-free laps to put them into a close second place behind X44. Abt Cupra's Matthias Ekstrom looked calm and fast to put the team within touching distance of a top 3 qualifying time. Claudia Hürtgen took over the car and was looking strong as she headed towards the finish.
7 seconds now the gap to Sands and Sainz. She is now approaching the end of the lap, so this is going to be close. All to play for. Oh, sideways in a roll! Massive off! That's huge! Claudia Hürtgen has had a huge crash!
Claudia just rolled really badly. I hope she's good.
The Abt car's just had a big crash, so yeah, they've not said if she's okay or not yet.
Finally, we've seen Claudia Hürtgen out of the car, and you can see the guys there from Abt Cupra. Big sense of relief. That is the best piece of news we've had all day.
For sure, those pictures look very wild and crazy, and yeah, super happy that Claudia is in one piece, and it also shows that the car is pretty safe when you have an accident like that.
I'm here. I feel fine. I hope the guys can repair the car for tomorrow, and then we will go out again tomorrow.
The crash meant there was plenty of work to do for the Abt Cupra team as they tried to fix their car ready for action the very next day. And even Matthias was getting stuck in to get the car race ready. With the track clear once again, Rosberg Extreme Racing headed out to try and go top of the standings. Molly Taylor sat out first and put it all on the line.
Oh! Rear end flies high. Go on, Molly Taylor. Absolutely lit.
Before she handed over to Johan Kristoffersen to try and bring home the top spot in an incredibly tight battle with X44.
And it's Kristoffersen who takes first place. So Kristoffersen and Taylor, they absolutely nail this first qualifying day. What a drama it was right until the end.
Attention all teams from the stewards.
Oh, from the stewards.
The penalty for Rosberg is 60 seconds, 44 kilometers per hour in the switch zone.
A penalty has taken the leaders from the top of the board and is going to drop them down.
Disappointment for RXR. But despite that penalty, they still qualified within the top 3, meaning they would go through to the semi-final to battle it out with Acciona Sainz and the fastest qualifiers X44 for a spot in the final.
Today was a great day because at the end of the day we won qualifying. It's a great result. It was a tough battle, few mistakes from other driver with quite big crashes, so it was a tough day with an intense fight with Rosberg's team.
Finally, we won the qualification because we don't make mistakes, and that's the good point.
With the qualifying action over, it was time for the relentless Saudi sun to set on the first day of Extreme E action. The beauty of the desert doesn't stop at night, as after the sun dips below the horizon, the night sky illuminates in a way you will never see in populated cities. To the ancient people of the region, the stars played an important everyday part in life, acting both as a roadmap to navigate the vast terrains and helping predict the many seasons that occur in the Saudi Arabian desert.
The location of the moon or the sun is very significant for us to know the lunar calendar or the solar calendar. This way we know the different seasons. For them to use the stars was very, very crucial because of the nature of the Arabian Peninsula. It's a harsh desert where it has both extremes, very extreme cold in the winter and then extreme heat in the summer. course, they relied on the stars to travel at night more than the daytime to escape the heat of the sun. And also because of the long distances that they had crossed for them, it was very important to know where the water sources are, where the next villages are, the next oases might be, for them to just keep alive, basically. For them to know the stars, know their location, it was so common sense that even kids know the stars. If you were to ask an Arab person, do you know about the sky? He would be, shame on you, how can I not know the ceiling of my own house?
While some gazed up at the starry skies above the Saudi deserts, many of the Extreme E teams were still hard at work, preparing for what Day 2 of the Desert X-Prix would bring. Next time on Electric Odyssey, we finally get to see what happened when the teams lined up to go wheel-to-wheel racing.
Side by side now. Carlos Sainz is in the lead here. Loeb's got him.